Thank you. Watching out for you. It's something many of us do, grocery shopping. And in the last few months, grocery stores in the area have seen outbreaks with between 2 to 20 workers testing positive for the virus. We're taking a deep dive this afternoon on the precautions in place and what you need to know ahead of the holidays. Our day-to-day lives have changed since March, whether it's school from home, working remotely, or the precautions and restrictions businesses have. But one of the places many of us go during the pandemic, an essential service, the grocery store, has raised some concerns.
You can go into a King Soopers or any grocery store, Safeway, Sprouts, and people are grabbing fruit, touching fruit with their bare hands, and then people are going right behind them doing the same thing, licking their fingers to open a bag. But they remain open and they shut restaurants down. It makes no sense to me.
Some small businesses say grocery stores have an unfair advantage during the pandemic.
I just feel like small businesses are kind of being singled out, especially in the restaurant industry.
Earlier this month, union workers with grocery stores like King Soopers and Safeway asked for a $2 an hour hazard pay to be reinstated. The companies gave the increased wage to employees from March to May, and as outbreaks have popped up at grocery stores in the state, they say it's just one of the many changes that need to take place.
A lot of local governments have done a good job of having certain restrictions in place for these grocers to abide by. A big problem that we're having is that the companies themselves are just not enforcing them.
Both King Soopers and Safeway have COVID guidelines listed online, which include increased cleaning procedures, adjusting store hours, and adding directions for aisles. Kroger, which owns King Soopers, says it uses technology to limit capacity at 50% to monitor and maintain traffic flow.
Yeah, 15.
For smaller grocery stores in the area, owners say the size gives them a bit of an advantage. Some customers even say they prefer the smaller environment when it comes to safety.
So people aren't lingering much like they would in a bigger store. You don't have to walk all the way, to the other side of the store.
Bread and Butter Market in Colorado Springs opened a few months ago, and every day they take their employees' temperatures, have them answer a few questions, and follow the mask mandate in place.
It's easier for us to keep it clean in here because we have, 4 or 5 carts and 10 or 12 baskets.
With the store's size, they're limited to about 15 people inside.
It's been a bit more natural for us, I think, to keep numbers low and make sure people have the space they need to be safe and comfortable.
Operating during the pandemic is also the only way they know as of now.
We've been wearing masks since day one. We interviewed all of our staff in masks.
Unlike larger grocery stores, Bread and Butter doesn't offer services like curbside pickup and delivery. It's something they're planning to look into for the future.
Being such a new store, that was a little bit beyond our capacity to begin with. I think those things will probably outlast the pandemic as well.
While some larger grocery stores in El Paso County have seen outbreaks, the state is more focused on places with increasing number of cases, such as jails, long-term care facilities, and schools that have seen more outbreaks, which is defined by 2 or more cases. El Paso County Public Health says grocery stores are not considered high-priority outbreak centers right now, but there are steps you should take.
Really, anytime anyone leaves their home, they have to remember that there can be a possible exposure anywhere they go.
Public Health says grocery stores are subject to the same protocols as other businesses with outbreaks. The number of people who test positive, combined with timing and the amount of space in a store, can all play a role in what happens after there are reported cases.
It's just going to be a case-by-case basis. Whether that be a closure or not, it will always depend on that facility and that situation.
Public Health says some other ways to stay safe are to limit trips to the grocery store, wear your mask, and also take advantage of other ways to get your groceries.
Grocery stores now have the ability of you just parking and then they deliver your groceries to your trunk.
And King Soopers sent us a response to the union's call this week, saying in part they are listening to their associates and continue to execute dozens of safety measures. Now, there are a lot of pieces to this when it comes to determining the best course of action after an outbreak, as you just heard. And that brings us to today's KOAA digital survey. We want to know how you are getting your grocery shopping done during the pandemic. Let's go ahead and take a look at those results. Majority of you, 62%, saying that you are shopping in person. Of course, the options here you can see we gave you in person, curbside pickup, pickup and delivery. It's actually been pretty fascinating to see how all these different stores, of course, they were offering some form of this, but it's really kind of been expanded to make this much more accessible during the pandemic.
We've seen so many businesses do that. And I've been comfortable from the get-go going into a supermarket with the mask on, taking the wipes, wiping off the basket or the push cart, whatever it's doing. You are concerned about what other people are doing, but I've always felt pretty good following those protocols. And I think obviously the majority of those who weighed in, 62% of those who surveyed, say, yeah, they feel comfortable doing that as well in the store.
Yeah, and some of the sentiments I kind of heard working on this story were that some people didn't necessarily feel comfortable because they felt like while there were those precautions in place, they weren't necessarily sure about the level of enforcement in those stores.